Good morning, children. Today in social science and history, in class 9, we will continue the lesson Nazism and the rise of Hitler. Now, there was an economic crisis in Germany, but there was difficulties politically also and socially as well. So, when the Great Economic Depression of 1929 had an impact on USA, till then, USA was helping Germany, they were supporting, but when they themselves faced a problem, they withdrew that support. Shares were sold off because of the speculation that the prices are going to fall further on, and they did not want to have further losses because already they had suffered a great loss. So the economic crisis, we come to Germany. The German economy was the worst hit by the economic crisis, like all other countries. There were deep anxieties and fears in people. People had become jobless. People had no work. They had no source of income. So they were walking on the streets wanting to get some kind of work, any work rather, so that they would be able to survive. Business also suffered greatly. Businessmen suffered as business was ruined. The small businessmen, the self-employed people, the retailers, all of them feared that there will be this proletarianization. Now, proletarianization means to come down to the level of working class. That meant that all the profits and all that they were earning, perhaps that would disappear, and they would come down to the level of the people who were workers, or they would become unemployed. Only the organized sector could manage. Even the peasants became helpless. So this economic crisis that Germany faced really made a lot of people suffer on account of that, and their difficulties multiplied. So we see that the Vmo Republic had certain defects. Why it was not successful? We see the Vmo Constitution had some inherent defects. That is, it had certain problems because of which they were not able to carry on, and there were more and more problems in the country. This made it unstable and vulnerable to dictatorship. So, they were not able to manage the affairs of the country. So, in every aspect, it was unstable, and ultimately, which was leading to a state where there would be dictatorship, and the dictatorship would be that of Adolf Hitler. Now, what were these defects of the Weimar Republic? Number one, due to proportional representation, it was impossible to get a majority for one single party, leading to a rule by coalitions. So, when they had the elections in the parliament, that is the Reichstag, so when they had this, so they went by the proportional representation, and one single party was not able to get the majority. So, most of these governments came to be formed over coalitions. That means coming together of more than one, 2, 3, or maybe more. Now, second problem or the defect of the Weimar Republic was the Article 48. Now, according to the Article 48, it gave the president the powers to impose emergency, suspend civil rights, and rule by decree. Decree is, one can say that it is an official order which is forced by law. So that meant that the president had a lot of powers. That means that if he wanted to impose an emergency in the country, he could do that. He had that power. Then he could suspend civil rights. That means the civil rights which people were otherwise normally able to enjoy, those could be suspended, and rule by decree. So this was the second major defect. And the third defect was that within, one can say, a short time, about 14 years, the Weimar Republic saw 20 different cabinets. So there were frequent changes in the cabinets, and so on an average, if one can say, that 239 days only that each of these cabinets lasted. And the liberal use of Article 48. So these three major defects made the country, one can say, in a state of turmoil. When there was a confusion, things could not be organized well, and the management could not be done well enough. So all this, naturally, people wanted a system where there would be stability in the country, where they would be, when they would be confident that things are going to work out for them. So the three defects: the proportional representation, then the Article 48, and the 20 different cabinets that came to be formed. So all these were the major defects because of which the Vmo Republic was unstable and vulnerable to dictatorship. That meant that there was bound to be a situation where one person, and that one person of course was Hitler. Now if we see Hitler's rise to power. So Hitler's rise to power, one can say that the crisis in the country, there was a crisis in every way. There was absolute turmoil in the country. There was absolute confusion in the country. So the crisis in the country, that is Germany, economic also, because of you can say the loss of job and the crisis that people faced because they lost their jobs. There was unemployment and business came to an end for many people. So all this created a sense of desperation and helplessness among the people. So we see the crisis in the country, economic, political and social, formed the background to Hitler's rise to power. So obviously Hitler took the opportunity and he rose to power. Adolf Hitler, that was born in 1889 in Austria. And he belonged to a very ordinary background. He spent his youth in poverty. He joined the army. He became a corporal in the army and earned medals for bravery. But when Germans were defeated, he was horrified and also unhappy with the Treaty of Versailles that Germany was forced to sign. So when all this happened, the defeat in the war, then one can say the anger at the Treaty of Versailles, which made it extremely difficult, and he simply wanted to take revenge. So he wanted to set matters right in the country and wanted to take revenge for all the humiliation that the Germans had undergone. So in 1919, he joined German Workers' Party, and it was later renamed as the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And this is the party that became the Nazi Party, which became famous as the Nazi Party. Now, he had his own plans. In 1923, Hitler planned to seize control of Bavaria, march to Berlin and capture power. That is, he wanted to become the ruler of the country. He was arrested, tried for treason, although later he was released. After 1929, conditions deteriorated in Germany because the banks collapsed, business shut down, the people who were businessmen, people lost their jobs. There was so much of an increase in the amount of unemployment in the country. So the Great Economic Depression, if we see that during this time, Nazism became a mass movement because people had become desperate, people had become helpless. In 1928, Nazi Party got only 2.6% votes in the Reichstag. Reichstag, that was the German parliament. So only 2.6% votes they were able to get in 1928. And because of the Nazi propaganda one can say is a specific message with the aim or intention of influencing the thinking of the people or the opinion of the people. So they used posters, films and speech were given, and that is how the people were convinced. So by 1932, the Nazi became the largest party and they got 37% votes. So we see that all these conditions were conducive, that it gave rise to, one can say, to the rise of Hitler because of the failure of the Weimar Republic, the Nazi propaganda that convinced people, and of course Hitler's personality, which paved for the rise of Hitler, who became the head of the country.